The Stoic Skill of Not Taking Things Personal. Part 1. Understanding why you take things personal. One of the most powerful skills a person can develop is the ability to not take things personal. It protects your mind, your peace, your relationships, and your confidence. It keeps you steady in a world full of misunderstandings, quick reactions, careless words, and emotional people. But this ability does not come naturally. It must be learned, practiced, and strengthened. You take things personal for several reasons. Sometimes it is insecurity. Sometimes it is a sensitive ego. Sometimes it is fear of rejection. Sometimes it comes from childhood wounds. Sometimes it is simply habit. You reacted personally once, it became a pattern, and now your mind repeats it without thinking. The Stoics understood that a large part of human suffering comes from interpretation, not reality. People make a comment. You interpret it as an attack. Someone forgets to reply. You interpret it as disrespect. Someone disagrees. You interpret it as judgment. A person looks distracted. You interpret it as rejection. The moment you add personal meaning, the emotion grows. Stoicism teaches you to separate what happened from what you added to it in your mind. Most people never do this. They feel something and instantly believe their emotional interpretation is the truth. But emotion is not truth. Emotion is a reaction, and reactions can be trained. Another reason you take things personal is because the mind naturally places itself at the center of situations. You assume everything said or done around you must relate to you. But the truth is this: most people are too occupied with their own thoughts, their own stress, their own problems, their own insecurities, and their own emotions to be thinking about you as much as you fear. Their tone, their mood, their behavior often reflects their inner world, not your value. The Stoic sees this clearly. They step back and ask, what if this has nothing to do with me? This single question can transform your emotional life. There's also another reason people take things personal. They care too much about how they are perceived. They want to be liked, understood, approved, respected, accepted. The desire itself is not bad, but when it becomes too strong, every small reaction becomes a threat. The Stoic breaks this dependence. They learn to stand on the foundation of their own character, not on the unstable soil of public opinion. They learn to seek alignment with their values, not alignment with others' approval. In the final part of this section, you must understand that taking things personal is not a sign of weakness. It is a sign of untrained perception. And any untrained perception can be strengthened. The moment you become aware of the habit, you gain power over it. In the next part, you will learn the Stoic mental shift that dissolves emotional reactions and prevents you from taking things personal in the first place. Part 2. The Stoic mental shift that stops personal reactions. If you want to stop taking things personal, you must learn to see situations the way the Stoics did. They had a unique mental clarity that protected them from emotional reactions. This clarity came from one simple principle: people do not act according to your worth. They act according to their own inner condition. This is the first mental shift. What others do is a reflection of them, not a reflection of you. Their attitude shows their stress. Their tone shows their upbringing. Their anger shows their wounds. Their silence shows their confusion. Their distance shows their priorities. Their impatience shows their inner chaos. Their criticism shows their fears. When you take things personal, you are mistakenly believing that their behavior is a mirror that reflects your value. But more often, their behavior is a mirror that reflects their struggles. The Stoic asked themselves a simple question: what else could this mean? This question instantly opens the mind. It breaks the emotional assumption. It gives space for reason. When you understand that many actions have nothing to do with you, you breathe easier. Your heart stays calm. Your mind stays balanced. The second Stoic shift is detaching your interpretation from the event. A comment is just a comment. A tone is just a tone. A look is just a look. A message not answered immediately is just a message, not answered. But the mind adds meaning. The meaning creates emotion. The emotion creates suffering. The Stoic pauses before deciding what it means. They treat situations like neutral facts until proven otherwise. This pause protects them from needless emotional wounds. The third Stoic shift is remembering how imperfect you are as well. You have been in a bad mood. You have spoken sharply. You have been distracted. You have forgotten to reply. You have been tired. You have been stressed. You have misunderstood others. None of those moments were intended attacks. They were simply human moments. When you apply this same understanding to others, your heart softens. You stop assuming the worst. You stop personalizing human imperfection. The fourth Stoic shift is recognizing that ego exaggerates everything. Ego always feels targeted. Ego always wants to be respected. Ego always wants to be right. Ego always wants validation. Ego creates stories around every experience. Stoicism teaches humility because humility frees you. When the ego is quiet, the offense disappears. The fifth Stoic shift is understanding that expectation creates emotional vulnerability. When you expect someone to behave a certain way, you suffer when they do not. When you expect a certain tone, you suffer when it differs. When you expect people to always agree, always praise, always support, you open doors to disappointment. Expect less. Observe more. The less you expect from others, the less you take personally. The final Stoic shift is remembering that you can only control your response. You cannot control how others behave. You cannot control how they speak, think, or react. But you can control your thoughts, your interpretation, your decisions, and your behavior. This is where your power is. When you stop trying to control others and focus on controlling your inner world, the habit of taking things personal begins to dissolve. You stop reacting emotionally, you start responding with reason. In the next part, you will learn the emotional discipline techniques that Stoics use to stay calm, steady, and unmoved when faced with criticism, disrespect, or misunderstanding. Part 3. Emotional discipline and staying calm under pressure. Knowing the Stoic perspective is the first step. The second step is emotional discipline. You must train your reactions because emotions often rise faster than reasoning. The Stoics understood this clearly. They knew the mind can be taught to pause, to interpret, and to respond with calmness instead of impulse. The first emotional discipline technique is the pause. Before assuming, before reacting, before defending yourself, you pause. Even a 2-second pause can save you from unnecessary pain. The pause allows emotion to settle and clarity to rise. Most personal reactions happen because people respond too fast. The Stoic slows down the moment. This creates space for wisdom. The second technique is grounding yourself in the present moment. When someone says something that triggers you, your mind begins to jump into stories. They do not respect me. They are attacking me. They are judging me. They are against me. These thoughts pull you away from the present moment and into imagination. Bring your mind back to now. Ask yourself what actually happened, not what I imagine happened. This simple grounding breaks the emotional wave that leads to taking things personally. The third technique is managing your breathing. When the body tenses, the mind tenses. When you breathe slowly, the mind slows down. A calm breath sends a signal to the nervous system that you are safe. This reduces emotional reaction and allows you to think clearly. A slow breath during a sensitive moment can prevent misinterpretation and protect your peace. The fourth technique is emotional labeling. When you feel triggered, name the emotion. Say internally, I feel irritated, or I feel insecure, or I feel misunderstood. When you label the emotion, you separate yourself from it. You no longer become the emotion. You observe it. And when you observe it, you control it. The Stoics often wrote down their emotions to weaken their grip. You can use this same technique in real time by simply identifying what you feel. The fifth technique is the Stoic distinction between insult and interpretation. If someone criticizes you unfairly, the insult is external. But if you take it personally, the interpretation is internal. You cannot always stop the insult, but you can stop the interpretation that wounds your peace. Epictetus taught that no one can harm your mind unless you allow it. This is emotional immunity. The sixth technique is detaching your identity from external comments. When someone reacts negatively, you must remind yourself this is their perspective, not my identity. People form opinions through limited information. No person on earth has full knowledge of who you are. Their reaction cannot define your worth. The seventh technique is learning to stay silent when necessary. Not every misunderstanding needs a response. Not every disrespect needs confrontation. Sometimes the most powerful reaction is no reaction. When you respond emotionally, you hand your power to the other person. When you stay calm, you keep your power. Stillness is strength. The eighth technique is mental reframing. Instead of thinking, they offended me, think, this is an opportunity to practice calmness. Instead of thinking they judged me, think, their judgment reveals their mind, not my value. Instead of thinking they disrespected me, think, I will not let this moment decide my worth. Reframing is one of the strongest tools in the Stoic tradition. The final emotional discipline technique is choosing dignity over reaction. Every moment that triggers you is a crossroads. One path leads to impulsive reaction. The other leads to composure. When you choose composure, you choose dignity. You choose control. You choose strength. The person who does not take things personally does not do so because they are numb. They do so because they value peace more than ego. In the final part, you will learn how to apply all these Stoic principles to real life and build a stable, resilient, and calm identity that no one can easily shake. Part 4. Applying Stoic detachment in real life. Understanding. Stoic principles is one thing. Living them every day is another. This final part will show you how to apply the skill of not taking things personal in practical situations. When these ideas become daily habits, you will notice a change in how you think, how you react, and how you carry yourself. The first practical application is in communication. When someone speaks sharply or uses a tone that feels aggressive, your first instinct might be emotional reaction. Instead, try something different. Ask yourself why their tone matters so much to you. Then remind yourself that tone reflects the speaker, not the listener. Maybe they are stressed, maybe they are tired, maybe they are overwhelmed, maybe they are insecure. The moment you see this, your emotional charge decreases. The second application is with silence or delayed responses. Many people assume silence means rejection or disrespect, but silence often means nothing. People forget. People get busy. People get distracted. People have their own priorities and their own life rhythm. When you stop interpreting silence as personal, you save yourself from unnecessary stress. The third application is in disagreements. When someone disagrees with you, it does not mean they dislike you or think less of you. It means they see the world differently. Stoicism teaches that every person views life through their own lens. Their disagreement is their lens, not your worth. You do not have to defend every point. You do not have to convince everyone. You only have to remain true to your reason. The fourth application is dealing with criticism. Some criticism is fair, some is not. The Stoic listens for truth without letting emotion take over. They separate useful feedback from emotional reactions. If there is truth, they learn. If there is no truth, they let it pass. You do not have to internalize every comment. You do not have to react to every opinion. When criticism stops being personal, it becomes a tool instead of an injury. The fifth application is in relationships. People who take everything personally struggle in relationships because they constantly feel attacked or unappreciated. But when you adopt the Stoic mindset, you stop reading into everything. You stop assuming the worst. You stop turning small moments into emotional wounds. You begin to see your partner, your friend, or your family member as imperfect humans doing their best. This perspective brings peace. The sixth application is in the workplace. Not every instruction is criticism. Not every comment is judgment. Not every decision is personal. The Stoics teach you to focus on the task, on the mission, on the purpose. When you remain professional and calm, you become more respected and more effective. You become known as the person who does not react emotionally to pressure. The seventh application is in public spaces and with strangers. A rude driver, an impatient cashier, a frustrated customer, a distracted coworker. You will meet hundreds of people whose behavior comes from their own internal struggles. Stoicism teaches you to protect your peace by not absorbing every passing emotion around you. You remain calm in a world that is often chaotic. The eighth application is within your own mind. Every time you feel offended, pause and examine the thought behind it. Ask yourself, why does this bother me? What meaning did I add? What assumption did I make? When you question your thoughts, you weaken their control over you. The mind becomes your tool instead of your master. The ninth application is practicing emotional distance. When something happens, imagine yourself stepping back from the situation. Imagine watching it from a distance. This mental separation gives you clarity. It helps you see the event as it is, not as your emotions paint it. This distance is what allows calmness to enter. The final application is remembering your worth. You are not defined by any person's reaction, tone, opinion, or misunderstanding. Your worth comes from your character, your values, your discipline, and your integrity. When you build your identity on these things, no external moment can shake you easily. The skill of not taking things personal transforms your life. It makes you wiser. It makes you calmer. It makes you stronger. It protects you from emotional manipulation. It frees you from unnecessary stress. It allows you to focus on what matters instead of what triggers you. It teaches you to respond with maturity instead of impulse. This is the Stoic way. You learn to observe before reacting. You learn to reason before feeling. You learn to question before assuming. And most importantly, you learn to stay centered in yourself, no matter how others behave. Carry this skill with you. Practice it daily. Repeat these principles until they become instinct. Your life will become lighter. Your relationships will become smoother. Your mind will become stronger, and you will walk with the quiet confidence of someone who is no longer controlled by the opinions, moods, or behaviors of others. This is true emotional freedom. This is true Stoic strength.